Thank you for listening to Life Improvement Radio. You are listening to a rebroadcast of a previously recorded show.
We're live from the Mind Book Fair, powered by Life Improvement Radio Authors Corner and the Total Education Network. You can visit my website at toldtutor.net for more information. Twitter, Total Tutor, Neil S. Haley, Facebook, LinkedIn, Neil Haley, Instagram, Total Tutor, Pinterest, Neil Haley, and Google Plus, Neil Haley. And we continue to roll on with the great, interesting Miami Book Fair interviews, Miami Book Fair series, and my co-host, Eric Remmel. Eric, so far, some really interesting authors and just a variety of people with different backgrounds. And that's what I love, what Lisa Pally is able to do at the Miami Book Fair, to hook us up with such interesting people.
I know, it's great diversity. And we get to talk to, we just talked to somebody from Germany who had a manuscript that was written in German and translated that we'll probably never have that opportunity again. So this Miami Book Fair really gives us a great reach and a great opportunity to talk to people from around the world.
Well, thanks to Life Improvement Radio for getting me this opportunity. It's kind of, these live broadcasts are kind of funny, Eric, as we're about to bring an author in. I did a broadcast live from Spain, and I must be having bad luck with live broadcasts. They were trying to break the Guinness Book of World Records for broadcasting live, and they basically forgot how to speak English halfway through my live broadcast second day, and we had technical difficulties. So I'm kind of scratching my head with technical difficulties. But we move on. Eric and I, we have been broadcasting so many hours together. That's how we get to know each other so well. So I'm excited to welcome the program author Vanessa Manko. Vanessa, thanks for calling, and welcome to Author's Corner. How are you?
Thank you. I'm well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, and I love seeing again that your the writing background that you have and different things. But is this the first time you're at the Miami Book Fair? Is it the first time you participated?
Yes, this is my first time, so I'm very excited.
How are you enjoying the weather? Did you come down from New York for the fair?
I did. It's really nice to be in 70-degree weather. It's not sunny, but I'll take 70 degrees over cold New York.
I bet. So, do you have any special events planned at the fair while you're there, since it's your first trip?
Well, I have my event right after this, and then there's the author party this evening, and I think I'm going to walk around and try to go to some other events and get to hear some voices that I wouldn't normally get a chance to hear.
Very awesome.
No, absolutely, and that's the fun thing about this book fair, is I participate in interviewing all these great authors, but then the connections of the people and sharing their stories and ideas is absolutely tremendous, for sure, Vanessa, and also getting the chance to share your book to others, and especially a new audience in Miami. That's got to be fantastic.
Yes, I'm very excited. It's a wonderful opportunity to read to a new audience that I wouldn't have, gotten a chance otherwise.
Okay, well, fantastic. Let's talk about your book, The Invention of Exile, and how did you come up with this idea? Tell us about that.
Well, it's partly inspired by family history, and it's based on the life of a grandfather that I never knew, who was deported from the U.S. during the first wave of the Red Scare, and returns to Russia with his new American bride, and has to flee once again and winds up in Mexico. He is an engineer and an inventor, and he believes his inventions are going to reunite him with his family in the U.S. So that's the premise, but it really came out of family history.
And that family history is very interesting when you talk about the Red Scare. For our listeners out there, describe the research finding out about that and tell us about that.
After the Russian Revolution, there was fear that it would spread to the U.S. in about the 1919, 1920. And Russian immigrants were targeted and because the government believed that they would sort of use force or violence to overthrow the U.S. government. So that's sort of where the Red Scare paranoia came out. And Russian immigrants were targeted, some were arrested and interrogated and eventually deported, which is exactly what happened to my grandfather. And I was curious about, well, what happened to him after deportation? Where did he go? What did he do? What was his life like? And that's kind of where the idea for the novel began.
Vanessa, what was it like doing research for this particular novel? I mean, did you have to go through family archives? Did you have to travel abroad and do research? Like, what was it like putting this whole story together?
Yeah, I mean, well, it took a tremendous amount of research. I researched immigrant communities in the U.S. in the 1920s during the first wave of the Red Scare. I read about the Russian Civil War. I read about the Russian emigres living in Paris, and then, of course, Mexico City in 1948. And I traveled to Mexico City twice to sort of walk around the neighborhoods where my character lived and worked, and tried to just sort of imagine what his experience might have been like.
Definitely, it's learning that history and uncovering certain things is what I guess makes websites like Ancestry.com so popular.
Oh, yes. Right, exactly.
And all these different ones, because you're absolutely amazed and blown away when you find out, oh my gosh, my relative did this, they experienced this, how is life like this? That's got to be one of the fun things about going through and finding lots of information to back up your story you create.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I had heard some of this story in bits and pieces growing up, but I always was curious about who this man was that, you know, sort of was this vacant, absent space on our family tree, and I wanted to know what happened to him. And so I think one of the reasons that I wrote the book was to get to know who he may have been.
Yeah, definitely. And what you were able to learn was so unbelievable. And Eric, when you say a lot of times looking at relatives and ancestors, Eric, is such a quite interesting thing when you research certain things, Eric?
It really is. Did you, I mean, it's always interesting. We did a genealogy project on my family where we went back and looked at the family tree and realized when relatives had come over or not come over, because just a bunch of stuff over the years gets lost, you know, and especially when family records going back hundreds of years weren't computerized, you know, if something burns down, you may lose the original document. What was it like doing that kind of research for you? Did you discover some things about your family you didn't know? Did it take years to put this together?
Yes, I mean, you know, again, I had heard bits and pieces, but when I started to really do the research, I pieced together the story and then kind of used that cultural and historical background to kind of set the characters in time and place and just create the world of the novel. I mean, I think the thing that I learned or discovered was just, you know, the sense of how does one, you know, build a life separated from family, and what does, you know, my character Austin, what does he do, and how does he live his days, and so that was really, I guess, a sort of imaginative discovery for me.
Definitely, absolutely.
Trying to inhabit his days.
Eric, it's quite interesting in certain ways what we're able to find out. And Vanessa, what do you think? How's been the feedback so far from your fans about this book and stuff? What have you been getting from different book signings and different things about the book?
Well, people have talked about the sense of loss and longing. The sense of what it is to be separated from family. People have responded to the writing. A lot of people have said that it feels like people have responded to the sense of the immigrant experience.
That experience is what connects people to that process. And what we're seeing right now, Vanessa, with our latest discussions on immigration, what a perfect time for the book to come out to create that dialogue.
Absolutely. And I, as I was doing research and learning this story and about deportation and immigration issues, I was reading about the past, and then, I would turn to the newspaper and hear about some similar stories of families being separated by the U.S.-Mexico border, and I thought, here we go, history repeats itself. So I'm hoping that what Obama is trying to do will allow for families to stay together, because I know, and I think my novel firsthand sort of tries to show, the long-lasting effects of deportation on a man and his family.
So you're thinking about the human aspect when we
exactly.
think of somebody after they've decided to leave because they had to leave, and that's all they have, and you can't deport them back to somewhere where their life is, where their children could be, specific things. We have to look at the human aspect of things. And I think that a lot of times when it comes to certain political views, I'd say Democrat and Republican, regarding education and the human aspect of the border, they're not thinking of people's lives. They're thinking about money. They're thinking about other people's responses to this and not the human aspect.
Exactly, and I think that's what literature can do, and I hope in some way that my novel and the story that I tried to tell gets to that human element, which is what literature is all about.
Eric, don't you agree with what I was saying about that we're not looking at the whole person in a lot of the decisions we make in life and stuff like that?
No, I agree. And I think it's really interesting because for a while there, deportation, immigration law, and at least last 2 to 3 years, it's been pretty much a mainstream topic in most news outlets, and now what's going on with President Obama and other stuff this week, it kind of fits, and I think it gives a different spin on the whole topic and gives a different angle for people to look at it.
Absolutely. All right, so where can we find information on you, purchase your book, and learn more about you? And I enjoyed our conversation, Vanessa, a lot.
Thank you. Well, the book is published by Penguin Press, and it's available at Barnes & Noble, IndieBound, Amazon, your local independent bookstores. So I hope that you'll go out and find it and read this story.
All right, well, fantastic. Best of luck. Enjoy the rest of the fair, and I'm glad your books are able to give us some background to lead to discussion, and that's important, especially. So thanks again for calling.
Okay, thank you for having me.
All right, take care. You're listening to Author's Corner, powered by Life Improvement Radio, live from the Miami Book Fair, and we'll be back in 2 and 2.
Thank you for listening to Life Improvement Radio. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own and shall not be construed in any way as advice from Life Improvement Radio. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our website. Personal perspectives expressed by the producers, writers, or editors will always be presented as such. Any rebroadcast or retransmission without the expressed written consent of Life Improvement Radio is strictly prohibited. Thanks for listening.